Hello everybody. I get a lot of questions about what kind of supplies are needed to get started with space painting. Space painting is a style of artwork that developed in Mexico in the late 70s and early 80s and kind of spread from there. And the whole concept is that you're working on typically poster board, this kind of stuff. Gloss poster board, you can get that for like $1 a sheet at grocery stores, dollar stores. And the idea is that you're using spray paint and household items to put images on the poster board very quickly. And besides the poster board, you're going to need a lot of rings and tubs and things like that. You can use yogurt containers, 5-gallon buckets. You can use the spray cans themselves or the lids that come with them. It's probably a yogurt lid or something. You're going to need a lot of cardstock and thick pieces of paper. You can use flyers, things like that. You can use the poster board itself. You can cut stencils out of cardstock. This is 110 cardstock. You'll also need a lot of spray paint, and I kind of divide it up into two categories. I think of it as stuff you get at the hardware store and stuff you get at art supply stores. Hardware store stuff is things like Rust-Oleum, Color Place, whatever this is, Walmart, and Krylon. Those are all pretty good for space art. If you're looking at art supply paint, things like Iron Lac, Liquitex, Montana, Color, what else? Montana 94. All sorts of different brands. Sugar is a new brand they came out with. I don't know if I have any here, but I like that stuff. But anyway, with the paints, you kind of want to stick to the thinner stuff overall. The cheap hardware store paints like the Krylon and the Color Place are actually pretty good for that. You wouldn't really use them for graffiti on a wall. They're a little too thin for that. So the hardware store paints you can actually use for space art. You wouldn't really use them for other things. You also probably want to get a respirator mask, an actual real deal one with the filters and everything, not a cheap paper mask. You probably want to get some car wash sponges that you can tear up, and some sponge brushes are also good to have around. Another thing you want is called a pallet knife. I really like the shape of this one with that blade edge to it, and this is just a flexible piece of metal that lets you scrape into the paint. You're also probably going to want some stencils, which you probably cut yourself, draw stuff, cut things out. And you also need some clear coat, because what you do with the clear coat is you wet down paint that you've already sprayed down, and that lets you scrape it with the pallet knife so you can make mountains, trees, stuff like that. And just as a practical example, this is actually the hood of my car here, and this whole background is all done with the space art. You can see what it's capable of doing. A lot of the rest of this is done with airbrush, but the background is done with spray paint. Another thing that's good to think about with the space art is what's good to paint on besides poster board. Most people are doing poster board, but you can do a lot with old wood panels, vinyl records, spray cans themselves, license plates, pizza boxes. I've done artwork on all sorts of things. But anyway, yeah, you can see how messy the studio gets with all the artwork going on. But anyway, yeah, that's about it for getting started with space art.